The Joe Rogan Experience.
I would really like cross-promotion fights. You know, I really would.
Bellator just did it with Ryzen.
Yeah.
You know, and what's your take on that?
I think it'd be good for everybody. Like I said, I'm obsessed with Douglas Lima fighting at 170 pounds.
Have you not seen Patricio fight?
Yes. I'm obsessed with Patricio too, but I feel like right now 145 in the UFC is so fucking talent stacked.
Yes.
I'm comfortable with some of these matchups that I want to see. I really am interested in seeing a rematch between Volkanovski and Max Holloway.
Yeah.
I think Max Holloway, with just a few adjustments, checking those leg kicks and maybe a little bit more movement, I think he can win that fight. But I think Volkanovski, with a few adjustments, might be able to put on an even better performance. And now that he's beaten the GOAT featherweight, I mean, who knows? I mean, a lot of guys, you don't really see what they're capable of until they win the title, and then you see the confidence take over. I mean, I think cross-promotion with all the champions would be fantastic. I mean, look, I'm a terrible business person.
Obviously.
I'd promote everybody. I'd be like, fuck yeah, Bellator, let's be friends. I'll blow you guys up too. I don't think the way the UFC does is sort of an isolationist perspective. Like when Fedor was a champion, they would get bummed out that I kept mentioning him. When Fedor was over in Pride. And I was like, you got to take into consideration Fedor Emelianenko. I mean, he might be the best fucking heavyweight alive. And there was a lot of guys over there that were fucking phenomenal fighters, and we absorbed a few of them, and there was some problems with that. You know, obviously there was problems with the fact that the contracts that they got from Pride, a lot of them weren't real. So, you know, we thought we had Fedor and we didn't. We thought we had a lot of guys. They had to just put him under new contracts. Mark Hunt was a good example. He wrote out his contract. And then there was a problem with supplements. You know, a lot of those guys were on the Mexican juice.
But because it wasn't in the contract. I fought over there and they said we do not test for steroids, like in the contract.
And Enson Inoue tell me that it was in giant, bold print.
Yes, it was. It was. It actually was.
Yeah.
I want to even say it was underlined.
Yeah.
It was like, no, look, so I agree with cross promotion.
Yes.
I want to see that. I 100% want to see that. But I also think, though, too, you got to look out for all promotions. If we're going to cross promote, let's not have champion versus champion. Let's have your number 2 guy versus this number 3 guy. Let's make the best fight.
Here's the thing. Do you think it would hurt the UFC? Because I don't know if it would. I think it would definitely help Bellator, but I don't know. First of all, I hate the name Bellator.
I think everyone did. And honestly, I think everyone did. It was true. I mean, but here's the thing. Like, they'd already spent millions, probably close to over $1 billion, and trying to make sure that it was marketed properly back then. When Scott came in, it's like, let's not try to rebrand this. And Scott's brilliant when it comes to doing these type of things. But you notice how he got rid of he made it very simple. The logo is simple. Everything is simple now. And it's easier to say, oh, that's our logo right there. Versus this big word that says, with like I don't even know what it was behind. It was like a Bellator fighter or whatever it was. Yeah, it went away. Gone.
Yeah.
So, look, in all these things, it takes time to get branded.
Do you remember King of the Cage when they used to have the King of the Cage, a giant bodybuilder dude?
Yes.
Who was like the mascot?
Yep.
Remember how strange that was?
Shout out to Terry Trovocock, dude. That guy. Look, he's been around forever.
Still around.
Still doing his thing, though, man. And you got to appreciate guys like that. Because even though he's not getting rich, but he's also making sure that young and up-and-coming fighters have a way to get their name out there and still fight at a high level.
Well, Bud Brutzman was one of the owners as well. He's a really good friend of mine. Okay. He actually sold him my old house. He lives in my old house. He's a real good friend of mine.
I never met him, I don't think, but
Bud and Terry were partners in that venture. And they used to have this guy who was this enormous fucking bald bodybuilder dude who was the King of the Cage. Yeah. And he was like a mascot.
Yeah.
You remember? It was
I do remember. He was always wearing like a dry fit shirt or like a really tight, jacked.
Big old fucking neck, bald guy, huge muscles.
Yeah.
But it was so strange. It was like, but he's not the fighter. This is so weird. Like, you have a mascot.
Yeah. Hey, whatever, man. Everyone's got to try something different.
Mascots are weird. It's a fighting mascot. Because remember, the UFC had the dude who was the bald, muscular guy in the logo. Do you remember that?
Was that you?
No, he was a lot bigger than me. It was more like Boss Rutan. It looked like Boss Rutan. Do you remember the early days of the UFC? The logo had this guy who was this bald jack dude. Yeah. And that was like a part of the UFC logo, was some bald dude.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was weird. And it looked like Boss. Like when Boss won the title, I was like, is this destined for you? Yeah. Like, look at this. It was real weird. There it is. Look at the fucking old logo.
Yeah, that's true.
How weird is that? No one like that ever won the title up until Boss.
But that's like, so when Scott came in, he changed the logo to make it simple, like basically what Dana and Lorenzo and those guys did, basically made it simple like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's good for the sport. We'll see. Like, look, the name itself is like, hey, do we want to rebrand this? No, you don't want to waste all the money you did trying to rebrand a new organization.
Right.
That's just too hard. And at the end of the day, it's, the execs talk and they're like, hey, let's just try and make some changes, make it simple, make everyone just fall in love with us all over again, but, for a different reason. The other thing, too, even though we are doing a tournament format for our fights, we're not doing them every, like Bellator before was doing them every Friday, different weight class, and I never paid attention because it was just too hectic to try and keep up. Now you have big fights scheduled, every, once a month, with the tournament fighters. So, like this weekend we have Cyborg fighting Julia Budd for the title, which is
good fight.
Phenomenal,
very
man.
Underlooked fight. Yeah, Julia Budd's a monster.
She's an animal, and I mean, and it's funny because everyone just keeps overlooking her, and
she's so jacked.
And she's not only is she jacked, her wrestling's gotten a lot better. And I need to remind you guys, her only 2 losses have been to Amanda Nunes and Ronda Rousey when Ronda Rousey was at the top of her game. Now, those 2 losses, those 2 were extremely early in her career. She's been on a tear ever since then, and she's been doing phenomenal. Again, talking with John, him and I have talked, it's her confidence. Her confidence needs to be at a different level.
Look at the fucking guns on that chick. Jesus Christ.
Her striking, I think, is better than Cyborg.
Really?
Yes, I think it's better.
Really?
Her striking's better than Cyborg.
Dude, that's a bold statement.
Can she take a shot from Cyborg? Who knows? But I think there's a lot to be said. Like, Cyborg doesn't throw the straightest punches in the world.
Right.
She throws a lot of hooks. So if Julia can pressure to the fence, get inside the clinch, make her get in that dirty boxing, get rid of those loopy punches, and be inside that pocket right there, then I think she's got a good chance.
Well, after Cyborg got flatlined by Amanda Nunes, the whole game just changed.
Yeah.
Everything changed.
It threw everybody off.
Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, Nunes has fucking hammers. That lady throws hammers. It's crazy. It's crazy how fucking badass she is.
I look at it, though, too, that Cyborg had been undefeated for so long, hadn't lost in so long, that she's just like, I'm just going to walk through this chick. And it just cost her. I think her confidence was that none of these girls can hurt me. I could beat her, and when she got hit, I'm going to hit you back. She was thinking she was going to impose her will like she did against everyone else.
Right.
Okay. And she's going to try to do the same thing to Julia Budd.
Right.
And it's a matter of how Julia Budd responds. And we're going to know, I think, in that first round, whether Julia is going to rise to the occasion or if she's going to step back and let Cyborg dictate the pace like a lot of other girls have.
Right.
I think with Amanda, when she pushed Amanda back, Amanda hit her and Cyborg got rocked and Amanda pressed forward and she thought she was going to hit her back and it became this exchange. It was a very sloppy fight, I think, from both sides, but Amanda has big dogs and was able to land the clean, good punches.
And timing. Her timing is fantastic.
What she did very well in that fight was that she made sure that she didn't blow her wad in wasteless punches. She was picking and choosing her shots. So she was making sure that they were landing versus just throwing, aimlessly and not landing. You see that a lot of times. People get rocked and the guy just comes and he smothers himself so much that nothing lands and the guy recovers and you're back to fighting.
Yeah. When I knew that Amanda Nunes was a fucking dangerous fighter was, first of all, the first round went there's a lot of fights where you saw it. You started to see it with Kat Zingano. The first round she almost had Kat Zingano out, but then she faded and then she got put away later in the fight, which just shows how tough Kat Zingano is.
Yes.
Kat Zingano's a fucking savage.
She's at Bellator now.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
Very happy to see her over there. But when Amanda Nunes beat the fuck out of Misha Tate and then strangled her, I was like, oh, god damn.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. And then when the Raquel Pennington fight's an underlooked fight because Raquel Pennington is as fucking tough as they come. That lady impresses the shit out of me. And the fact that she was able to stop her and beat her down before she stopped her. You realize she was on another level at that point in time. But still, in the Cyborg fight, I had questions. I was like, is she going to be... Look what she did to Holly Holm. Cyborg just bullied Holly Holm.
Yep.
She was just on top of her, beating her down, and Holly is a phenomenal striker.
Yes. And
I was like, man, but the difference is Amanda is her hands. Yeah. Holly... has good power in her hands, excellent timing, good counters, but Amanda has legit one-shot knockout power.
Yeah, I agree. I just would have liked to have seen them do a second fight because I think that Cyborg would have fought a smarter fight and it would have been a different outcome.
She would have made the adjustments.
Yeah, she would have made the adjustments, not just made the adjustments, but we saw with Jermaine Duran, when Jermaine fought her, then Amanda, as the fight goes on, she's not the same fighter.
Why do you think that she decided to move over to Bellator? Why do you think she didn't pursue the rematch?
Oh, you know the answer to that. Come on, Joe.
She didn't like Dana?
You can't, I think the comments, to being treated like the, certain ways, people talking behind her back, saying, calling her, a man, whatever it was. There's not just that, but then also too, a little bit of I think some of the mistreatment in that whole thing. The other thing as well, let's not, all that stuff aside, she's got a relationship with Scott Coker. She had it from Strikeforce, and they've always got along. He's always amped her, and you got to remember, he's the one that first put women's MMA on the big stage. Her and Gina Carano were the ones that made women's MMA that next level of what it could become.
There was something that happened between them where the UFC was like, we're getting out of the Cyborg business. I'm trying to remember what it was. I don't remember what happened, but there was some sort of a dispute that they had.
Was it before? I think it was before the Amanda Nunes fight?
No. They put out a video. Cyborg's boyfriend put out a video where she put words in Dana White's mouth. And they were fake.
Yep.
They mistranslated it on purpose, willfully, and then she had to apologize for it. And then the UFC was like, "Get the fuck out of here! You can't do that."
Yeah.
And that's when they released her.
But that wasn't her, right?
That was
her
boyfriend.
Her boyfriend and her management, I think, or something like that.
Well, her boyfriend is her manager.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. So that's why she got out of the business. That's why the UFC got done with the Cyborg.
But here's the thing: is that when she hadn't lost in what? 15 years or some shit like that.
Since Gina Carano, well, before the Gina Carano fight, her first fight.
It was her very first fight she lost.
Yeah.
But so that first fight, she hadn't lost since then. It's been close to 15 years.
Yeah.
And to say that now all of a sudden, because she had one loss after Amanda Nunes, when she lost to Amanda Nunes, that she's done. Like she wants to fight easy fights. She wants to. Julia Budd is not an easy fight for her. No. And but we go back to when I was talking about the narrative. The narrative being that Dana shapes the narrative. The narrative is that, look, if you want to fight over there, you're going to have easier fights. And the press jumps on board and the fighters jump on board and it becomes an issue. That's why I feel like we're not seeing cross promotions.
Well, I just think it's a business decision. The UFC doesn't have any vested interest in blowing up Bellator and making them bigger. And Bellator would get bigger along the way. But I think Julia Budd hangs with any 145-pounder in the UFC, and I would like to see her fight in the UFC. I would like to see cross promotion with her as well. I just feel like it's just one of those things where it hampers the fans because the athletes, they're just not going to face each other.
Well, let me go into this. Is we already saw cross promotion when UFC was basically asking, or I don't want to say begging, but they were trying to force the issue with Chuck Liddell fighting Vanderlei.
Yeah.
And remember that.
But they got fucked over because they actually sent Chuck over there, and then Pride didn't send anybody over here.
Yes. Here's the thing, though. We've already seen with Scott what he says he's going to do, he does. And that's a big reason when I actually had to fight Kawajiri, it was supposed to be, they sent Aoki over when it was Dream. And they sent Aoki over, and Scott was supposed to send Gilbert over afterwards to fight each other. So Aoki fought Gil in Strikeforce. And then after Gil beat him, he was supposed to go over there and fight him in a ring. That didn't happen. So I got a call on 12 days notice, and Scott's like, can you do this for me? And I was like, I'm literally sitting at the fucking courtside of the Warriors game, eating chicken strips and drinking a beer. And I'm like, let me go home. I'm going to run about 4 or 5 miles, see how I feel, and I'll get back to you. Call him that night at midnight. And he's like, yeah, I'm good. I can go. So that's how I took the fight with Kawajiri on 10 days notice. And just so, look, when people want to talk about how the Japanese do business and what happened with the UFC, I can understand. I can understand why they're hesitant to do cross promotion, because when I actually accepted that fight with 10 days notice, I was supposed to fight Aoki. But when I got there, they changed it to Kawajiri.
Wow, that's a big difference.
That's a big difference. But what they do is one's a wrestler and one's a jiu-jitsu guy, sure. But the other thing too is what they do is they say, hey, here's another amount of money. Here's a check for this if you switch and you take this guy.